Yeah, guy. Streams Live Podcast. Chris Anthony with you, live streaming on YouTube Live, Facebook Live. Just added Twitch. Hoping it's going through on Twitch. It's great to be with you here on Streams Live. We're podcasting live from San Juan Capistrano. Beautiful San Juan Capistrano. And Revolution Studios here. And we're going to talk about something very close to my heart today, and that is, well, it's all spiritual talk. But what we're going to talk about, there we go. What we're going to talk about is why I left organized religion. And that is, I'm excited about this topic. Not so much because I want to bash on anyone or anything, because it's just about my journey. And my journey's been a wonderful thing. And of course, I want to share my journey. I think we all want to share our journey when we have wonderful experiences. But I want to say up front that I'm not encouraging in this podcast anyone to abandon their spiritual heritage, their spiritual tradition, or leave their church, or leave their mosque, or leave temple, or any spiritual group they're part of. So this is not about encouraging people to abandon their spiritual roots. I think spiritual roots and heritage are something that stay with us through our life, and I think that's something to value and consider. But I want to talk about my journey out of it, because in my experience, we're always pressing onward and upward as spiritual people. We're always evolving, and we're always moving forward. That's just the nature of humanity, the nature of the human spiritual experience. So I'm glad to share that with you today. One of the things I want to briefly quote to you is Alan Watts. Alan Watts has said some amazing things in the spiritual realm. And one of the things he said, the truth that religion to be of any use must be mystical has always been denied by the seemingly large number of people, including theologians, and I would add clergymen, pastor, priests, leaders, etc. These people do not know what mysticism is. And he said its essence is the consciousness or awareness of union with God, or the divine union. So when I talk about mysticism, I'm not talking so much about the dark arts or black magic or anything like that. What I'm talking about is the mystery of the spiritual experience, the mystery of life. And the mystery is a beautiful thing, because we can't always describe the divine in words. And even me sharing my experiences with you today, it's going to be difficult for me to put into words the experiences I've had. But I wanted to talk about why. Why did I leave organized religion? I mean, there's a lot of good people in it, and there's a lot of good things going on. There's a lot of charitable work. A lot of hospitals were founded by, the Catholic Church, and there's a lot of Christian organizations doing great humanitarian mission work, feeding people, digging wells, cleaning, helping people have clean water and things like that. So there's a lot of good going on. But why would I leave it? And that's the big question. And so the first thing I wanted to share was that I started to have these mystical experiences. And the mystical experiences I had were far beyond the boundaries of what is accepted normally in organized religion. So I began to have things happen to me that, as I was thinking about them, I was thinking maybe I should go and share this with my leader, my pastor, whatever. And I realized that this was not something I could do. The experiences were such that there was no way that I was going to go and tell my spiritual leaders what was happening, because it was way outside the norm. It was way outside what was acceptable. I was part of a Protestant Christian church, and it was really outside the accepted norm of Christianity in general, what we know as Christianity today. But really, it wasn't far off from what Jesus said. He talked about a second birth. He talked about, and that's what it was like for me. It was so radical. It was like a whole new world. It was like really coming into. It was like being born from above, is what he talked about. So it was like that. It was also coming from within me. And that's something that he actually talked about too. In the New Testament, he talked about, he goes, don't look for God's world, the kingdom of heaven, here or there, because you can't see it. He said, it's within you. Look within, for the kingdom of heaven is within. And when I started having these experiences, mystical experiences, crazy awakenings, enlightenment, and even tangible things happening to me in the physical realm that I thought I was going crazy. I never would have thought some of these things would have happened to me. I started to Google it because I was at a loss. I didn't know who I could go to, who I could talk to about these things. And I kept coming back to, as I was Googling some of these things that were happening to me, I kept getting these Google hits on Kundalini awakening and Kundalini rising. And of course, within my group, that was a no-no. A lot of the leaders within Christianity talked about that as being demonic and of the devil. So I knew it wasn't that. It wasn't El Diablo, it wasn't that. It was a beautiful experience. And I'll share one of them with you real briefly here. One of the experiences I had was what some people call the unitive field, or it's like cosmic consciousness. I would be outdoors, and I would feel the wind kick up, for example, but it wasn't just a normal wind like it was before I had these experiences. It was as if all of creation sort of came into this beautiful concert. It was like the wind was caressing me and loving me. It was like divine love coming through nature. And it was beautiful. I would call it the matriarchal face of God. That's what some theologians would call this, even in the Christian tradition. And in Hinduism, they call it Divine Mother, or Divine Feminine, we sometimes say now in the West. And so this was one of the experiences I had. And this was one of, like, I would say I had 50 to 100 experiences that within a period of about a year and a half, that just really overturned, uprooted my understanding of what spirituality was all about, what the divine was all about, what was acceptable, what was not. It began to forge and change my mind. It challenged me. It challenged the old thoughts, the old wineskins of religion, and like new wine going into old wineskins, they'll burst, right? So it was new wine for me. It was new spirit. It was new vitality and bliss. It just didn't fit in my old package. My old package of my old box that I had that contained all my beliefs and theology and God, and it was way outside the boundary of that. And that was the beauty of it. It was so challenging, but it was beautiful. And I wanted to share that because I know there's other people out there that have gone through these experiences, because mine started when we had the Great Recession in 2008, 2009, and things were changing, and it was challenging times. And, a lot of times these spiritual awakenings happen in difficult times. It was Taylor Swift who said, hell was my path, but it brought me to heaven. And, that's suffering is what sometimes brings us into the new world of spirit. And so I was going through a difficult time in the recession, in the Great Recession. And I know a lot of people have gone through a difficult time with the pandemic in the last year. And so that's a ripe soil for spiritual growth. And so, my eyes were open to what I would call the true kingdom of heaven. It wasn't found in a church. I love being around community, and I still went to church for 8 years after I had this awakening. So I didn't abandon, my church friends, and I still don't. I still, if they call me up and say, hey, come play music or whatever, I do from time to time. It's just not my thing anymore. But the reason why is because I felt like within the boundaries of the groups that I was involved in, that it was like a collective agreement, a mental construct, if you will, a collective agreement of the people on what was right, what was wrong, what the Bible said, what the Scripture said, so on and so forth. And these things, as I think, as good as they may be to kind of give a group direction and like, hey, here's our mission, here's what we believe. As good as those things can be, there was a certain rigidity and a lovelessness that that love was lacking. And I found it not to be conducive to my future growth. So eventually, I sort of, over time, gently parted ways with the organization of religion. I never stopped loving God, Christ, but it just really opened up a whole new world to me, because when I left organized religion, I realized that, first of all, one of the things that happened from my mystical experiences, I knew I was just going to be okay. I knew I was going to be fine. It's like a person who had a near-death experience who came back and said, "I'm not afraid of death. I'm not afraid of God." I've had, and it was like that for me, even though I didn't have an NDE necessarily. I just knew I was going to be okay. And now the world was the Lila of God, the play of consciousness. It was this divine story that was being told. And now I could go explore. I could explore the wonderful world of spirituality. I could look into other religions without fear of condemnation, without my friends looking down their nose at me, warning me, bro, you better not read that. Or it wasn't for me anymore. That attitude just didn't work. So now I got to dive headfirst into the depths of really the world religions. And I started seeing a continuity from all the world religions, especially in the mystical branches of those world religions. I found, for example, every faith family on earth or spiritual practice has, these mystical branches. And the mystical branches are, for example, in Islam, it's the Sufi mystics, and that's where we get the beautiful poems of Rumi and Hafiz. And in Judaism, the beautiful branches mystical branches are Kabbalah and Kabbalah, as some people say. And within Christianity, we have the Christian mystics like Therese of Lisieux, the Little Flower, and we have St. John of the Cross, and we have Julian of Norwich, and so we, Teresa of Avila. So we have these great Christian mystics who experienced some of the same things that the Sufi mystics did. And of course, it goes on and on. We could talk about, all the faith families on earth. But the cool thing is I began to dive deep into world religions. And I got to pull the wisdom and the experience of all these different groups. And that was really, really fulfilling, because I just had a hunger to know more about what other people experienced and what they learned. And I wanted to experience that. As I began to pull away from my own spiritual experience in the West here in church life, I began to see it, and this is where it's going to be a little tough, this talk, but I think some of you will understand. But you have to understand that I was involved in churches, not just as a person sitting in the pew, but even as a person in leadership and in pastoral work. And what I began to see in organized religion, particularly in Christianity and Protestant Christianity, I saw that in many churches, because I had been involved in different churches, various churches over the years, but I saw that many of them had, it was like an advanced game of control, of egocentric bullying and exclusivity. And so within the church, there was an exclusivity that, there was the A team, and, you went to all the meetings, and you prayed really long before meals and all these things. And it really didn't feel right. It felt right before my spiritual awakening. But after I had these mystical experiences and I started awakening, it didn't feel good anymore. And I didn't really want to be part of that. I didn't want to see people being mean and excluding others. And I certainly didn't want to do it myself. And it was sort of expected that you would sort of give people a hard time if they were living a certain lifestyle or whatever. And I get that. Morality is a universal thing. But I just didn't like the power plays the egocentric altars of worship. I felt like a lot of what I was hearing in the music was very egocentric, even though the songs were talking about God. It was, look at me, I'm worshiping God, or our God's better than your God. And that just didn't feel right to me, because it felt like to me after my awakening that we were all children of the same one source, the same one creative power, the same beautiful light that fills all. And so that's how I began to feel. I stayed around for 8 years, and I did a lot of service. And then over time, I just felt like it became a bit of a drag, and I dove headfirst into what was resonating with me, which was yoga. And that is very non-sectarian. We had a bhakti yoga class on Easter, and we put up a picture. I have a wonderful painting of Jesus out in the wilderness, and he's praying. He's actually meditating, and we put that up in our bhakti yoga class on Easter Sunday, and it was a very powerful experience. And a lot of the people who were doing yoga come from Christian belief and still really love and respect Jesus, and still worship and honor him. So it was very powerful to do that. But sometimes in the bhakti yoga classes, we sing kirtan, and there can be all different forms of divine expression and divine names, just like there's many different divine names in Western spirituality. We have all kinds of names for God, and they have that in the East. So, I love the non-sectarian vibe. And when I say that, what do I mean by non-sectarian? Sectarianism is when you say my way is right and yours is wrong. It's kind of like, take my road or hit the road, or what I really couldn't stand and tolerate anymore is the spiritual egocentrism that said, if you're not part of our group, then you're going to burn in a lake of fire forever and ever. I mean, really, for a lifetime of sins committed, you're going to suffer for all eternity. It just didn't seem just and right. And I know the scriptures, I know what people are quoting, but it just didn't line up with my experience of divine love. And I've come to see some of those things a little bit differently now. And I do have ideas on what those mean, but I'm not going to cover that in the podcast here today. I just wanted to briefly go over in this part one, why I left, and what a beautiful experience it is to be free swimming in this divine ocean of love, and to not look at people so much as Christian, Buddhist, Muslim, or Hindu, but just to look at everyone as a person and to look deep into their eyes, the windows to the soul, to connect with a person's soul. That's really what it's about. It's not so much about, oh, you're part of my group, you're saved, and oh, you're not part of my group and you're not saved. That's not what it's about. What it's about is about love, because even in their own chapter and verse, it says God is love. And so what I found is, as I dove deep into the world of spirituality and non-sectarianism, I found that love abounded everywhere I went. I saw a surf movie a couple months ago, and it was called Church of the Open Sky. And I love that because every time I go in nature, I see divine love. And when I surf the waves, I'm not just surfing on top of water, I'm surfing a wave of energy that's pushing the water. And that just blows my mind that I can go out and surf waves of energy, and that my body is made up of particles that essentially are energy, that are vibrating. And to realize that the mind is powerful, and that thoughts are energy waveforms, and that my body is an expression of my mind and my thoughts. And to realize now in this spiritual journey that I am a creator of my own life, that I make choices and decisions that amount to who I am, that I choose to come or go or stay or do whatever, that really I'm not a victim anymore of my life circumstances, that I am very much creating my own existence, and even my ascertaining of life and my judgments of whether I'm doing right or wrong. This is all a mental construct, you see. This is all a mental construct that I've created in my own mind, right and wrong and good and bad. And I found that some of my worst decisions have been some of my greatest assets to propel me forward and higher. So now I don't look so much at decisions that I thought before were evil as a problem. I look at them as something that built character in my life, that pushed me to higher levels. And so I think the one thing I've learned in this journey, and it's been about 12, 13 years since I had this awakening, the one thing I've learned is that life just gets better and better, and that love abounds, and love never ends, and it never quits on you. It always forgives if need be, and it is always there. And so it's a beautiful journey. And this is going to be a podcast series. So I just wanted to do an introduction as to why I left. I think I made it pretty clear why I left organized religion. And I think I also made it pretty clear that I'm not saying that you should. But I think one thing I am making clear is I think you should dive into the divine ocean of love and open up your heart to all things. So what we're going to cover in some of the next podcasts is we're going to look at all kinds of different faith traditions. I'm going to have some friends on the podcast with me who have also been on this journey of discovery, and they're going to share what they've learned, which is not exactly what I've learned, and that's okay because I don't know everything, and they don't either. But we all learn from each other. So this is just one of many episodes that I hope that you will continue to listen. If you're watching on Facebook Live, like the page and make a comment in the comment field. If you're watching on YouTube Live and you enjoyed this podcast, make sure you go up and subscribe and set your alerts. And this is my first time live streaming to Twitch, so I'm excited to be on Twitch, even though it's primarily a gaming live streaming site. But I know there's a lot more podcasters coming to Twitch, so I want to get ahead of the curve. So if you're watching on Twitch, I hope I'm live on Twitch. I did a test podcast and I wasn't live. So dang it, I hope I'm live on Twitch right now. Follow me on whatever platform you're watching, and make sure you stay tuned because we're going to come back to this beautiful life of the ocean of spirituality. I entitled it "Why I Left Organized Religion," but it's really the secret truth to this podcast. It's going to be the beauty of life and all things spiritual, and we're going to get into it. It's going to be beautiful, and I'm thankful you were here to listen to me sharing, and I look forward to getting some of you on with us on the podcast. That's a strong possibility. So make sure you subscribe and then send me, send me some chats so we can get you on. I'm Chris Anthony. This is Streams of Light Podcast. Until next time.